Welcome viewers. Today we will be discussing about the determinants of organizational structure. Here we will discuss about what are the current challenges faced by organizations, importance of organization and its environment or the society, how structural dimensions are shaped by the contingency factors of organizations, evolution of organizational design, what are the design elements. We will further discuss about the mechanistic and organic organizational designs and contingency factors associated with each of these designs. We will further explore about the current trends of organizational designs and various elements of organizational designs. Let us begin with a story of a sustainable organization. As we know, there are several organizations which have been existing like General Electric, Xerox, Kodak, and many of them have survived the fluctuations or the threats of business environment, the various factors in the business environment which have created a crisis, and some of them have evolved and some of them have transformed, whereas some have completely vanished from the environment. So, what is the reason behind it? Let us discuss in more details with the story of General Electric was established as Edison Electric Light Company in 1878. Further, it has evolved as Edison Electric Illuminating Company in 1882, merged with Thomas Houston Electric Company in 1892 to be known as General Electric. The company has been established by Thomas Alva Edison and manufactured electric bulbs, fans, household appliances, vehicles, turbines, jet engines. In 2013, it has developed first operating system for industrial internet, predicts expected to process 12 terabytes by 2020. So, here goes on the story of General Electrics, which has evolved with the various, or it has survived various crises in the business environment. General Electric has been named at multiple times as world's most admired companies. The effort continues to go on to inspire more than 3 lakh employees working in 180 countries and continues to produce breakthrough innovation. Let us look into the past of General Electric, where it started and where it has transformed to be as a sustainable organization. In 1973 to 1981 era, it was Reg Johns who has led the organization. Further, Jack Welch led this company in from 1981 to 2001 as a most phenomenal era, which has been given the company number 1 or number 2 positions in this electronic space. Jeff Immelt era started in the year 2001 to 2017. Most of the analysts felt General Electric fell behind, then moved ahead since 2017. GE hit rock bottom during late 2018 and early 2019. CEO was John Flannery and Larry Culp. Jack Welch has seen the organization rise to its epitome of success. The reason being various transformations he has made and in the organizational structure, and he has taken up various strategies where the organization has to acquire new businesses, to sell some businesses. So, there are the story behind how the organization has survived the turmoil in business environment. Organizational designs have evolved. The organizational designs are the reason of how the organization faces current challenges like globalization, intense competition, sustainability, green movement, ethics, speed and responsiveness to the business environment, digital organizations, big data analytics. Organizational design provides tools to understand the design and manage organizations more successfully. So, what we have learnt is how the organization is able to transform itself taking care of the needs of business environment. How does it respond to intense competition, current rivalry in the business environment? How does it respond to the needs of sustainability, green initiatives, ethical or moral responsibility, speed and responsiveness, meeting the needs of the customers, changing preferences of customers, or adapting to digital technology as per the new innovations. So, big data analytics, how the organizations are able to take decisions quickly so that the organization is performing efficiently and effectively. Let us talk about what is the definition of an organization. Let us go more into details about how does an organization perform, how does an organization look like, what is an open systems view. The organization is a goal directed social entity designed as deliberately structured and coordinated activity systems. It is linked to the external environment. So, as we know that in the open systems view discussed earlier, we have seen that an organization acquires resources from the external environment in terms of raw materials, human resources or people, information or resources, the raw materials which are used for delivering the better products or used in getting the products finished for the customers, financial resources, money, capital from the market, and these are the inputs which have been transformed through various processes in the organizations, and then finally the output is uh, produced, output in the terms of the products, better products, services which are meeting the demands of customers. So, there are various subsystems within the organization like a formal and informal subsystem. Formal subsystem is a overt explanation of the systems within the organization like strategy, goals, objectives, systems, policies, procedures, the reward mechanism, structure, job description, reporting relationship, communication, channel and technology. Informal subsystem or the covert subsystem consist of power and politics, leadership style, culture, perception, values, beliefs and assumptions, feelings of anger, joy, fear, etc. All these in some way or the other help in transformation of the acquired resources into final goods or services. So, the transformation process consists of production, maintenance, adaptation and management of these resources, and the organization so appears like an open system which is supposed to respond to the external environment with its formal and informal subsystems closely intertwined with each other. The formal subsystems you can just summarize as management, strategy, goals, structure, technology and operations, whereas informal subsystem consist of culture, politics, leadership, which is also though it is not visible, but it is also having an equal role in organizational performance, organizational achievement of goals, employee satisfaction, customer satisfaction. So, an organization which is having a sustainable presence in the business environment has always responded with the demands of internal external environment, has been responsive to the needs of environment, and it evolves and transforms accordingly. So, the design of an organization will not remain the same as it was in the previous years. So, therefore, the importance of organizations is organizations bring together resources to accomplish desired goals. It facilitates innovation in products, processes and services using modern manufacturing and information technologies, adapt to and it influences rapidly changing business environment, accommodate challenges of diversity. There is a discussion about how the organization and the workplace can be more diverse, including both people with special abilities, people with educational diversity, with gender diversity, race, religion, so that it will be highly innovative and creative. Be how to accommodate challenges of ethics and motivation and coordinate with various employees working in different positions, different roles, create value for owners, customers, stakeholders and employees. So, organizations will be most sustainable if they take care of the needs of various constituents in the external environment, constituents who are helping the organization to be productive, like how to create value for owners, customers and employees, bringing together resources to achieve desired goals, produce goals and services efficiently, facilitating innovation through sharing resources, through sharing of information, creating a culture for collaboration, competing with effective collaboration, and using modern manufacturing and information technology to improvise its processes, various processes to improve its products so that it is customer friendly, it is user friendly, adapt to and influence rapidly changing business environments needs. So, where there are various dimensions of organizational design, the structural dimensions and associated contingency factors. We will discuss each one in more details. Like formalization is one of the structural dimensions and the contingency factor is it affects the size of an organization. Specialization and organizational technology is the contingency factor. Hierarchy of authority, the chain of command and how it is associated with the business environment. Complexity, the higher the complexity in the business environment, it will have an impact on the goals and business strategy. Centralization and the culture. For example, if the organization is having centralized control, and what would be the culture of the organization? Interacting structural dimensions of organizational designs. For example, the goals and strategy, environment, culture, size and organizational and various technologies will have an impact on the dimensions of structure like formalization, specialization, hierarchy and authority, and centralization or the degree of control bestowed with the top management, professionalism and personal ratios. So, with this background, we come to a conclusion that an organization with various factors or dimensions of the structure like formalization, specialization, hierarchy, centralization, professionalism, personal ratios, the organization can have a well defined organizational chart. There would be board of directors on the top, then executive committee which consists of advisory committee who will provide guidance to the board of directors, who will give suggestions from time to time, taking the views of the external environment as well as how they oversee the organization's internal environment. There is a director, executive director in the level 1, then followed by there are different levels, level 2, level 3, level 4 and level 5. In the level 2, assistant executive director for community services, for human services. Then in most of the organizations there are different departments, divisions, but just giving you an example, like below that level is the director of economic development, director of regional planning, director of housing, justice. So, it takes care of the needs of the organization which has a larger number of personnel, like director finance, director administration, director of the director accounts. Then further you have level 4 which is little below that, you will have coordinators like housing coordinators, then the architecture, somebody would be taking care of public information, accounts, then the program directors of various projects, then further counselors and so on, construction division. There are different divisions. Below that will be the secretaries, the record clerks, secretaries and administrative assistants and so on, IT system specialist and clerks and administrative staff. So, every organization has a different level, maybe there are multiple levels, there are 4 or 5 levels and which decides the span of an organization. Let us discuss about the characteristics of two organizations like a software firm and Walmart, a retail store. For example, for Valve Software, a company, if we look at the technology that they are working on, like they are focusing on software development, the size is, say for example, 300 to 350 people working in the organization, and their goal is innovation. What would be the structural characteristics be? The it is defined by the hierarchy of authority and formalization, specialization, centralization, whether it will have like highly specialized, because their focus is on technology. So, it is highly specialized. It may not give more importance to the control by the top management, because the people in different capacities in the lower levels of management can also give their views. And whereas when you compare it with a retail store like Walmart, which has a large number of working people working for the system, say more than 2 lakhs to 3 lakhs people working. So, the focus is on efficiency of delivery of services or products and services. So, they would give an equal representation to or equal weightage to hierarchy of authority, specialization, formalization and centralization. Now, we will discuss about performance and effectiveness outcomes of an organization. What is efficiency? We will discuss about effectiveness and stakeholder approach. What is efficiency? We all know that an organization is considered to be effective and efficient, then only it will have a chance of survival. Efficiency talks about amount of resources used to achieve the organizational goals. There are several resources, as we discussed in the open systems view of an organization. Those resources should be optimally utilized, and there has to be focus on low wastage or zero wastage, or amount of resources which have been used to achieve the organizational goals. How many products to be produced? What is organizational final objective? So, efficiency talks about the means through which we get the end results. Effectiveness is the degree to which an organization achieve its goals. For example, what is the focus on end goals when we are focusing on say development of a software? What is the time duration and how fast we can produce the product so that it is reaching the client's needs or it is meeting client's expected time duration. So, that is called effectiveness, whether you are able to meet quality of the products, whether you are able to meet the timeline. So, it talks about the degree to which an organization is able to achieve its goals or end results. Stakeholders approach balances the needs of various stakeholder groups within and outside the organization. We have discussed a large number of people, large number of stakeholders are associated with the organization, and they have an interest that have stake in the organization's performance. Evolution of organizational theory and design. Historical perspectives provide insights into how organizational designs and management practices have varied over time in response to the changes in the society. For example, there are several organizations like Nestle, Kodak, General Electric, Boeing, which have transformed their organizational designs, structure, management practices with the change in the business environment, with the changing expectations of society. They have evolved from what they were, what they started as a nascent organization. Nestle started as a milk company, dairy foods. They were only, their focus was on baby food like Fair and Lacti, but today Nestle is into multiple products. Let us talk about various examples like Nestle, Kodak, General Electric, Boeing, which have transformed organizational design, structure, management practices with the change in business environment and societal expectations. Nestle started way back in 1868, where it was serving the needs of the infants, the young mothers who could not breastfeed their young kids, the newborn babies. So, Nestle was, with that objective, it started the product called Fair and Lacti, but later on Nestle has evolved and with the changing demands of the business environment. After First World War, Nestle went into manufacturing Milkmaid, which was serving the needs of the soldiers in US, and then further it has expanded into the chocolates, milk chocolates, then further it has acquired Alcon Laboratories, it has also it has gone into pharma and several other product lines, several other businesses. So, which says that the organization will not remain itself in one domain, but keeps on evolving, and it would also change the design uh, and the structure of organization based on the demands of external environment, based on the changes in changing preferences of society. Similarly, Kodak started as a film company, Xerox started as a photocopier, but they have also evolved over a period of time. General Electrics was once into manufacturing bulbs and electric appliances, but later on it has also ventured into financial services, and also it is into the jet engines and so on. Similarly, other companies have seen, like Boeing, have also transformed into its organizational design, structure and management practices with evolution of time. Historically, if we go back and look at the perspectives, efficiency is everything. Scientific management emphasizes that scientifically determined jobs and management practices improve efficiency and labor productivity. How to get it organized? Administrative principle gives a guidelines that design and function of the organization as a whole contributed to development of bureaucratic organizations. Now, uh, when we talk about functioning of an organization, we cannot ignore people. Hawthorne studies give a focus on positive treatment of employees, how to improve motivation and productivity of organizations. So, can bureaucracies be flexible? 1980s, the focus was on corporate culture, valued lean staff, flexibility, learning, rapid response to the customer's needs, engaged employees, and focus on quality products. Current day, the focus is on flexible organizational design approaches which are still continuing, and the organizations have focused on lean as well as flexible organizational design. There are several contingency factors which have influenced organizational designs, like size, technology, environment, goals, strategy, organizational culture. The correct organizational design approach is contingent on the organizational situation. Various major stakeholder groups and their expectations, like employees, their focus is on pay satisfaction, job satisfaction, supervision, how are they having a better relationship with the supervisors. Customers' focus is on getting high quality of goods and services, the value for the money they have paid, better services they need, and owners and shareholders also give an importance on the financial return, their investment, and how they are getting profit out of the investment. Then suppliers focus is on satisfactory transaction, the transaction that they are making with the organization, what is their benefit, how are they getting reputation, in terms of reputation, in terms of profit, revenue from the purchase. Community at large talks about good corporate citizens, contribution to the community affairs. Their organizations are investing in the development of community in through their various CSR projects, by bringing in good roads, investing on hospitals, investing on the community development by building infrastructure for the schools. And union has a focus on how they can have a say on employees' pay, getting better benefits for the employees. Government has a role to play. Government obedience of the laws and regulations. Government from time to time it gives guidelines, changes rules, regulations regarding recruitment, regarding giving a judicious treatment or equal treatment to all the stakeholders. Like there are legislations, improvement in the laws for giving equal opportunity to the women in the workforce, people with disability, like reservations are given to people from reserve category. So, all these are various examples or instances where the laws have been transformed from time to time, the laws have been revised, and so how does an organization adapt to those changes? So, government talks about fair employment, fair competition, management talks about efficiency and effectiveness. The creditors and investors have creditworthiness, fiscal responsibility. So, all these are the stakeholders, major stakeholder groups, and they have a larger expectations from the organization. Based on all these expectations, based on contingency factors, organizations have also evolved. Like organizations decide what should be the type of organizational structure. Broadly, we see there are two dominant organizational explanations or organizational designs. One is mechanistic and another one is organic structure. Organizational design is a machine like uh, organizational structure with standard rules, procedures, and a clear hierarchy or centralization of authority. Organic structure is something which is loose and free flowing, with which is flexible with a decentralized decision making authority. The design of an organization depends on whether the organization is centralized and decentralized, specialized tasks versus empowered roles, whether they have formal versus informal subsystem, and there is a focus on vertical or horizontal communication. What is the like communication within the organization, whether it is top down or bottom up approach, whether it is across the divisions and departments, hierarchy versus authority versus collaborative team. The focus of all these, or the how does an organization views about its centralized structure, specialized tasks, formal systems, preference for vertical and horizontal communication, hierarchy, authority, collaborative and teamwork, it decides what should be the structure of an organization or organizational design. There are broadly two ideal types of organizational designs. One is mechanistic and another one is called organic structure or natural systems design. Organic structure and mechanistic structure are two broad categories of organizational designs. Mechanistic structure will have a vertical structure, rigid organizational culture, routine tasks. It has a preference for formal subsystems. It focuses on competitive strategy. Mechanistic structure will go well with the stable environment to have an efficient performance. On the other hand, if we have an organization, if we have an organic structure, the focus of organic structure is horizontal structure, empowered roles. People will have, the employees are more empowered, there is more of decentralization in the organization. Culture is not rigid, but culture is evolving, adaptive culture which is changing with respect to the changing demands of environment, both internal, external. Shared information. Information is not streamlined, information is not top to down, but information is shared across top to down and across the horizontal structure. Collaboratively, competitive strategy. Competition is through collaboration with various resources, collaboration with various people working in the system, various departments. So, collaboratively competitive strategy. Whereas in mechanistic structure, we have focused on it is complying with the norms, compliant to the norms, and then competes with the organizational demands. Most comfortably, organic structure or natural systems design is working well with the turbulent environment. Business environment is highly dynamic, competitive, vulnerable, uncertain and ambiguous. Organic structure will go with that particular business environment. Organic structure is like a learning organization where it is learning from its mistakes, evolving its structure, changing structure, does not remain with us with the rigid hierarchical control or rigid hierarchical structure. Organizations which have been sustainable, which are effective, will adopt to the organic form of organizational structure. What are the typical contingency factors for mechanistic and organic organizations? For a mechanistic design, focus is on efficiency. For an organic design, the focus is on learning orientation. Mechanistic structure will have a centralized structure, strict hierarchy or autonomy, specialized task, task specialization. So, on repeated performance of the task, the employee becomes more efficient. There are many rules, rigid rules, formalized, or the formal rules and regulations are being exercised so that people and their behavior is streamlined as per the organization's rules, regulations. It is molded as per the rules and regulations of an organization. Vertical communication, there is a top down communication, and typical contingency factors are large size, efficiency strategy, stable business environment, rigid culture, and manufacturing technology. Mostly it is used in manufacturing technology. Whereas in organic design, which is emphasizing on the learning, there is a decentralized structure. There is more of empowerment to employees in working in different roles, responsibilities. It emphasizes on collaboration, collaborative teamwork. It focuses on empowered roles. People who are taking decisions are more empowered. They need not seek permission from the top management. There are few rules, regulations. Rules can be flexible, and there is a horizontal communication, unlike the mechanistic structure which has a vertical communication. Typical contingency factors are small size. It has a small size, unlike the mechanistic which has a large size. It has its focus is on innovation, innovative strategies, because everybody can share their views. So the idea which has flourished in the minds of few can also be quickly, it can be disseminated across the communication channel, and people can come up with or share the new ideas. Changing environment, this is most suitable with the changing business environment, and as the culture is very adaptive culture which takes the views of takes a feedback from the business environment, takes the feedback from the internal environment, and it is mostly efficient for service technology. What is the emerging design trend? A few organizations have shifted to an extremely organic form of organizational design, where there is boss is not controlling the organization, or you can call it as a bossless design, with no job titles, no seniority, no managers or executives. Everybody has an equal position. So, there are some organizations where there is a team based organizational structure. There are different firms that we will discuss further. People work together on an equal basis, and no one gives or takes orders from each other, and there is a equal responsibility shared. Cost may be lower due to reduced overhead. Money must be invested in ongoing employee training and development. There is a focus on continuous learning, learning from the mistakes. The culture must engage employees and support the non-hierarchical environment. So, with this framework of discussion on organizations, we arrive at some conclusion. There are four levels of analysis. There are four levels of analysis which characterize an organization: individual level, group level, such as departmental level, organizations level, external environment such as community. So, the focus of organizational behavior is individuals within the organization, whereas the concern for organizational theory and design, which analyzes the whole of organization as a unit. So, organizational design essentials. Organizational design provides tools to understand, design and manage organizations more successfully. Organizations are open systems that obtain input from the environment and value and discharge products and services. Many types of organizations exist, such as profit and non-profit organizations, structural dimensions and contingency factors, which provide labels for measuring and analyzing organizations. Structural dimensions include formalization, specialization, hierarchy of authority, complexity and centralization. Contingency factors include size, technology, environment, goals, strategy and culture. And contingency factors will influence whether an organization is more effective with a primary mechanistic or with an organic design. Current challenges require greater flexibility, decentralization for most organizations. Some organizations have shifted to extremely organic or bossless designs. Organizational theory and design in a macro examination of organizations, because it analyzes the whole of organization as a unit. Most concepts in the theory and design pertain to top and middle level of the organizations. Now, we have seen that there are several organizations like IBM, AT&T, Apple, General Electric, Philip Morris, Pillsbury, Texaco and Walt Disney, which have restructured, reorganized from time to time. And the organizational restructure to cut costs, become more responsive to customers or improve performance. In the context, this lesson has discussed why organizations restructure, change structure, adopt different organizational designs. A possible response to the question is the complexity in the business environment, formalization and centralization. The control is vested with the top management, whether the organization is able to follow the rules and regulations or is more flexible. A core dimension of organizational structure. There are a list of variables which define structure. The organizational structure has been defined differently by management theories. There are certain dimensions or variables of organization structures like administrative component, autonomy, centralization, complexity, delegation of authority. Administrative component emphasizes on number of line supervisors, managers and staff personnel relative to the total number of employees. Autonomy talks about extent to which top management has to refer certain typical decisions to a higher level of authority. Centralization emphasizes on the proportion of jobs whose occupants participate in decision making and the number of areas in which they participate, or concentration of power arrangements, or an index reflecting the locus of decision making. With respect to major and specific policies, the degree of information is shared between different levels and the degree of participation in the long term planning. Complexity emphasizes on number of occupational specialists, the professional activity and professional training. Delegation of authority talks about the ratio of number of specific management decisions the chief executive has delegated to the number he or she has authority to make. Then some more dimensions like differentiation, number of specialty functions represented in a firm, or difference of cognitive or emotional orientation among managers in different departments. Integration talks about the quality of the state of collaboration that exists among departments that are required to achieve unity of effort, or plans of feedback used for coordination between organizational units. Professionalism talks about the degree to which employees use a professional organization as a major reference, belief in service to public, belief in self-regulation, dedication to one's field. Span of control talks about number of subordinates that an individual manager can and should supervise. And finally, we talk about some more like specialization, the number of occupational specialists and length of training which is required for each employee, or the degree to which highly specialized requirements are spelled out in the formal job descriptions. For various functions, standardization is the range of variation that is tolerated within the rules defining the jobs. Vertical span, the number of levels in the authority hierarchy from the top to bottom. To conclude, the management theorists generally agree on the dimensions of organizational structure but disagree on the operational definitions as to whether the dimensions are primarily or subsumed under a larger dimension. Thank you.